Chapter 9, Cellular Respiration, Harvesting Energy from Food. These are the learning objectives. We have to know all the stages of cellular respiration and all the inputs and outputs of each stage, and other types of cellular respiration such as anaerobic respiration and fermentation. There are a few other basics that we need to know. So before we jump into the chapter, let's find out how much we know. Let's do this true or false game. Uh, Respiration and cellular respiration, are they two different processes or same? Respiration is basically breathing. Cellular respiration is breaking down of food using some agent and enzymes and releasing energy. That is cellular respiration, and this process occurs within inside the cell. This is a chemical reaction, whereas respiration is just exchange of gases. That has to do with osmosis. Not, I'm sorry. That has to do with diffusion. Do plants carry out cellular respiration only in organs such as roots that cannot carry out photosynthesis? No, it's not true. Any living organism has to carry out cellular respiration. As long as an organism is alive, it has to carry out cellular respiration. Every living cell has to carry out cellular respiration. So, cellular respiration occurs in green parts of the plants, non-green parts of the plants, and not only in roots but also in stems, branches, fruits, and everywhere. Even the parts that are exposed to sun also carry out cellular respiration. When a person is on a protein diet, completely trying to avoid, carbs or reducing carbs, are they able to produce ATP? Yes, very much. They use proteins, their fats, their everything, what we eat, whichever has nutrition, energy. These are the molecules that are used for releasing energy. Cellular respiration does not occur in bacteria. No, it's not true. Cellular respiration does occur in bacteria, and uh, it could be aerobic or anaerobic, though they don't have mitochondria. They themselves are kind of mitochondria. So, yes, it does happen. Plant cells carry out cellular respiration only during nighttime. No, it's not true. Even when there is sun, as long as a living cell decides to stay alive, it has to carry out cellular respiration. Cellular respiration totally occurs in mitochondria. Not quite true, because the first part of the aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration and fermentation, which is glycolysis, it occurs in the cytosol outside mitochondria. Catalysis and catabolism are different. Yes, catalysis is just boosting a chemical reaction. Catabolism is breaking down of a large molecule into small molecule with the help of catalysis or catalysts, which are enzymes. Describe which of these are accurate. Read the question, take your time, and try and figure out which one is the most correct. In order to answer such questions, you have to understand the concept in depth. Knowing the stages and inputs and outputs won't be enough. You have to understand what is going on in each stage, because these are the kind of questions that you will see on the test. Just checking if the video is going on. Yes. So let me go on again. Slideshow. Um, As I said, all living cells have to carry out cellular respiration, even our skin cells, brain cells, bone in the sense bone marrow cells, which are alive, they have to carry out cellular respiration. Skin cells and hair cells, or the part of the hair which is dead, they are not carrying out cellular respiration. As I said, specifically, only the living cells carry out cellular respiration. In a living organism, the living cells carry out cellular respiration. There is a connection between cellular respiration and photosynthesis. The nutrients that are coming off of photosynthesis, such as sugars and oxygen, they become the inputs for cellular respiration, and whatever are the outputs of cellular respiration, they become the inputs for chloroplast for photosynthesis. The energy for photosynthesis comes from sun, and energy derived from cellular respiration is used for cellular work. Different types of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is only one kind, but the respiration word is used in many contexts. Just simple respiration is breathing of air into lungs and out of the lungs. Inhale, exhale. External respiration is exchange of these gases between an organism's blood and its environment, so outside to inside. Internal respiration is when oxygen and carbon dioxide are going between the blood and the tissue, so tissues are taking in, that is internal respiration. Whereas cellular respiration is even more deeply internal. It is inside the cell. It is inside the cell of a chemical reaction, a complex chemical reaction, which is breaking down the food with the help of enzymes and vitamins. And this process is driven by oxygen, and this process will end up making carbon dioxides and waters, and energy released will be stored in the molecules called ATP or GTP. This is cellular respiration. So remember the chemical equation: glucose C6H12O6 plus O2 will give rise to carbon dioxide, waters, and ATPs. Different types of cellular respiration. Whenever you see this kind of slide, you may stop and take a little break or review whatever you have studied, and continue with the video. I would like to continue making the video instead of making 5-minute videos, several of them. I would like to continue making the videos. So whenever you see the title slide like this, you may pause and resume wherever, but make a note of the little time bar where it is. So coming to the next concept, let's start. Types of cellular respiration. So the word respiration is used in chapter 8 in our biology course for cellular respiration. So I'm not talking about breathing here. I'm going to talk about cellular respiration. What happens to food molecules inside the cells? How are they broken down and how is energy released? That is respiration for us. So cellular respiration is equal to respiration in our biology class. Coming to cellular respiration or types of cellular respiration, breakdown of organic molecules is going to release energy, and that can be driven by oxygen. And if it is driven by oxygen, then organisms have to respire, in the sense they have to take in oxygen. So aerobic respiration is when organic molecules and oxygen are required to yield ATPs, that is energy from food, and stored into ATPs, then it is called aerobic respiration. Whereas when sugars are degraded partially, not completely, and this process can occur without oxygen, then it is called fermentation. Yes, wine is a fermentation product, right? Product of fermentation. Many cheese are made by fermentation. Our bread is made, the dough of the bread, it rises, it makes it fluffy because of fermentation. Coming to Anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is when instead of oxygen, organisms use sulfate or nitrate or carbonate and release energy from food and store it in ATPs, then it is called anaerobic respiration. So, three types of respiration: aerobic, when oxygen is used; fermentation, nothing is used, just the sugars with the help of enzymes and vitamins; anaerobic, instead of oxygen, in place of oxygen, something else is used, another gas, any one out of these three. So remember, catabolic pathways yield energy by oxidizing organic fuels. Oxidizing does not mean oxygen is involved. Oxidizing means breaking it down and releasing electrons. That is oxidizing. So let's understand what is oxidizing or oxidation, and opposite of oxidation, that is reduction. So coming to oxidation reduction reactions, make sure that you have copied all the notes from the previous section of the video and are ready for the next section. You have to remember this mnemonic. Leo says GER to remember the definitions of oxidation and reduction. What does LEO and GER stand for? L is for loss, and okay, L is for loss, E is for electrons, O is for oxidation. So if L is for loss, then G is for gain. So loss of electrons is oxidation and gain of electrons is a reduction. What is oxidation reduction reaction, and what it has to do with cellular respiration? Oxidation reduction reactions are the two types of chemical reactions that take place. Those take place when food is being broken down. Remember, food molecules have high energy electrons, and when they are stripped off, they are taken by vitamin B molecules, and then vitamin B molecules are not that highly electronegative. So there are proteins in our cells, in our mitochondria, which will take those electrons away from vitamin B's. And finally, oxygen, which is the most greedy for electrons, most electronegative, is going to accept those electrons or grab away those electrons. So when electrons jump from one molecule to another like this, energy is released. This is how energy is released from food molecules, through the process of oxidation and reduction reactions. A chain of oxidation and reduction reactions. Remember, if someone loses electrons, then there should be someone who gains electrons, right? So if food molecule loses electrons, then vitamin B gains electrons. If vitamin B loses electrons, then another protein which is greedy and taking away electrons is undergoing reduction. So food molecules undergo loss of electrons. That means they undergo oxidation or get oxidized. And electrons are finally gained by oxygen. So it is reduction. Oxygen is reduced. Remember, food molecules undergo oxidation or they become oxidized because they lose electrons, whereas oxygen is going to gain electrons finally and become waters. So oxygen is going to undergo reduction. There's a little tricky thing here. Whenever something undergoes oxidation, then it is said to be an then it is said to be a reducing agent. So NAD plus accepts electrons or gains electrons. So it undergoes reduction and it is called oxidizing agent. And remember, NAD plus is undergoing reduction, gain of electrons, and it is called oxidizing agent. So food molecules lose electrons, so they undergo oxidation, hence they are reducing agents. Oxygen molecules, they gain electrons, hence they are undergoing reduction and they are oxidizing agents. This is a very good example of a same thing. You may pause here and take down some notes. Again, the electrons that are coming off of food molecules, they are not directly going to oxygen. They are going through the mediators, vitamin B's and many proteins in between. So each one is undergoing reduction when it is gaining and oxidation when it is losing. Remember that part? These reactions go on hand in hand, hence these are called redox reactions. So cellular respiration is um, full of redox reactions. In this process, electrons which are with hydrogen atoms are the ones which are lost or gained. So basically, a hydrogen atom is removed from food molecules in order to remove that one electron that we need to make it jump, so that the jumping electrons release energy. So you can change that Leo says GER into something like this. Just replace electron with H. Loss of hydrogen atom is oxidation and gain of hydrogen atom is reduction. This could be one of your test questions. So cellular respiration is definitely a catabolic process, and mainly the term cellular respiration is applicable to aerobic respiration that produces ATP in the presence of oxygen. Oxygen is the one which is pulling the electrons and causing this flow of electrons, and that is how energy is released from the food molecules. So this is completely a redox reaction or set of redox reactions. It's filled with a set of redox reactions. Why are we making the electrons jump, or why are electrons jumping? The thing is, when electrons jump from less electronegative molecule to more electronegative molecule, they release energy, and that is what is the goal of cellular respiration. So try and answer these two questions and find the correct answer based on the statement that I just gave. And also you have to apply Leo says GER and the concept of oxidation and reduction and reducing agent and oxidizing agent here as well. I hope you remember that electronegative means greedy for electrons, something that is that we have covered in the previous chapter. So as I said, hydrogen atom is actually stripped off of food molecules. When hydrogen and oxygen, they together mix and they form water, it is actually an explosive reaction, and it releases immense amount of energy, which is actually explosive. And that kind of explosion is not advisable in a living cell. So we make these electrons or the hydrogen atoms join the oxygen atoms after it jumps to several of the molecules, that is vitamin B's and proteins in the mitochondria, so that energy is released off of them. And when hydrogen atoms reach oxygen, they are quite low in energy, and it does not result in any explosion. And the energy that is released when hydrogen atoms mix with oxygen and water is formed is so explosive that this is actually the power that is used for launching the space shuttles. As I said, vitamin B's are there to accept the electrons that are released immediately from the food molecules, and one of them is NAD H or NAD plus. NAD plus is the one which actually accepts the electrons and hydrogen atoms and becomes NADH. So NAD plus gains or accepts electrons, so it is gaining electrons. NAD plus undergoes reduction, so it is oxidizing agent. Remember, NADH is not going to keep these electrons forever. It is going to give away the electrons very soon to someone, whoever is greedy, and it bumps into it because all these molecules are floating in the cell, right? So NADH gives the electrons away to someone, and when it gives away electrons, it is losing electrons, so it is called oxidation. So if NADH undergoes oxidation, then it is called reducing agent. You may want to replay this part a couple of times to understand the concept. In the next video, I'm going to make 3 stages of cellular respiration, and we will go over each stage and what are the parts that you need and what are the parts that you do not need. Something that I want you to remember from the previous part of the video, this video is Leo says Gur, what is oxidation, what is reduction, and what is the role of NAD plus, what is the role of NADH, and 3 types of cellular respiration, what is the basic difference between them. And we are going to talk about aerobic cellular respiration in depth in the next video.